Well, hello there. I'm Marianne. People call me Dr. Debt. And I'm going to talk to you about all things money. So, the last blog I did was talking about the 3 steps that were crucial to having a solid financial foundation. And this time I want to focus on one of those steps. And so that step is tracking your spending for optimal success. Now, if you asked me what is the single most important thing that I can do in order to have the best financial situation possible, I would say without a shadow of a doubt that it's tracking your spending. Why is tracking your spending important? Well, for 3 main reasons. The first one is that information is power. And so tracking your spending is going to give you really good information that helps you make really good decisions about your money and where your money goes. The second reason is that it allows you to effectively evaluate your decisions and how they're impacting your finances. So what I mean by that is, let's say you've decided you want to cut back on your grocery budget. And so you decide that you're going to buy in bulk or buy brand name, or you're going to prepare your meals in advance, plan your meals in advance, or prepare them in advance. How do you know if that's working if you're not tracking the results? And so tracking your spending will give you the information to see if the decisions you're making are working for you or not. The third reason is that it's just plain interesting. When you track your expenses and you look at the results, sometimes things pop up, so these money suckers or money draining expenses, and you find out where your money's going. Sometimes it's places that aren't really that important to you. And by simply knowing that, you can make some adjustments to redirect the money to something that is important to you. So those are the 3 main reasons that you would want to track your expenses. Now, the second question you might ask is, how do I track my expenses? And like everything to do with personal finances, the answer to that is there's a whole bunch of ways to do something, and there really isn't one right or wrong way. You have to pick what's important to you. So you might go with the tried and true method of pen and paper. Now, I wouldn't necessarily suggest just a piece of white paper. What I might suggest is a ledger book or a notebook or something where you actually track where the money's going. Now, the expenses that you're going to track aren't your power bill and your car payment and your mortgage. Now, it's good to know what those are, and I'll talk about when we get into the how you track it. I'll talk a bit more about that, but what I'm talking about are your cash needs, your monthly cash needs, your gas, your groceries, and like all that miscellaneous spending. That's really the stuff that you want to track. So pen and paper works great. You might want to use, if you're a computer person, you might find spreadsheets work really well for you. And I'm just going to bring you over here for a minute. So spreadsheets are great because they do a lot of the math for you. And it's a great way to just organize it, in one place. So this is something that I've done in the past. I haven't been updating it lately, so I'm making a little confession here. But I'm going back to doing that because I have found that it's very powerful and gives you some really great information. So I know you can't see this well, but I'm just going to point out some of the areas of this. So the first thing is that it's by year, so 2011, 12, 13. I know I'm really behind, so I'm doing 14, 15, 16. When I'm done, I might have some really interesting tidbits to share on what I found out. And then category, so home, which would have things like your mortgage and your insurance and your home maintenance and utilities, so I do put those in there. Auto and transport, your car, your gas, your insurance, car payment, etc. Food and dining, bills, utilities, actually that one's there, shopping, miscellaneous, there's a whole bunch of stuff. And so what you don't see is that I have all these columns hidden, and they would be January to December, where I've put in the amounts each month, and then for the year, I do have a yearly one, and then I average it out. So I'll take the full amount for the 12 months and divide it by 12 and average it out that way. And so all of that information is important. But what I do find, we tend to think about money monthly. That's how we operate, but not all expenses go along with that. So car maintenance, for example, isn't monthly, but you do need to look at the yearly amount and divide it by 12 and figure out a monthly amount. And I'll talk about that a little bit later. So a spreadsheet is a great way to put down the information so that you can refer to it. And, money management program, yes. So sometimes people are very accounting minded, and maybe they like Simply Accounting or QuickBooks or Microsoft Money, great programs. You can download your transactions from your bank, or you can input the information in, and you can pull some really great reports. So that's another great way to do it. And the other thing that you can do with smartphones is you can get an app and download it on your phone. That's the way that I track mine. I am a self-proclaimed lazy budgeter. I like to do the least amount of work for the most amount of effort, and I like things at my fingertips. So for example, I have a banking group with my various banks and any kind of software that I use. I use Mint.com, and I have no affiliation to them. That's just my personal choice because it downloads my transactions in real time, and it's always there at my fingertips when I want to look at it. And it does some really cool things, like shows me a budget timeline. I know that's hard to see. You can't really see that. And the problem is it's March. There's no data yet because we're only 2 days in. But this budget timeline will be green if I'm within my budget amount, or red if I'm going over. And I like to be able to just check in and see that. And then I can click on my accounts, and I can go to all accounts, and I can view my transactions that have come through, and I can enter transactions in. So that's an online app. There's lots of apps you can use. A lot of them require you to input your information, which again, perfectly fine if that's your thing. Check on my list here. So pen and paper, check. Spreadsheet, check. Money management accounting program, check. And apps. If you have another idea of a way to do it, put a comment in the section below and let me know, and I'll be happy to share that as well. Okay, so we covered the why you would want to track, make decisions. You can see how your efforts are working for you, and you can find out some interesting tidbits of information, and we talked about the how. So the next question is, where do you get the information? And so, again, comes from a few different places. It depends on if you're a cash spender or a debit spender. And so one of the simplest ways is to get in the habit of asking for receipts every time you make a purchase, and so you can get them from your receipts. It is a good idea to keep the receipts organized in some way, shape, or form. I can tell you when you go home with a mitt full of them and you start going through them a week or 2 weeks later, you're going to come to ones that you go, what the heck was that? And have no clue. So some of them don't have a really good description on the top of them, but receipts are a really great place. The second is online banking, so you can either print your statements if you get them in the mail, or go online and you can go through your bank account and take the information that way. It's great for debit purchase, but not going to pick up your cash purchases, so you might still need receipts for that. And the third place is, oh my gosh, I've lost my train of thought. Oh, of course, online. So online and credit card statements. So you can go online and do it, or if you're using credit, so cash spending, debit spending, credit, some people will filter everything through a credit card, and so you can get your report at the end of the month and you can go through that. And some credit card companies will actually break it down in categories, which is helpful, but a lot of times you'll have to break it down a little bit more because their categories may not match what you want to track. Okay, so that is why, that is how, that is where you get the information. And so the third thing I want to add is, sorry, I'm a note person, so I've got pen, paper, check things off. I'm an organization freak as well. So the next thing is when. When do you do this? And again, you find what works for you. So at the end of the day, you sit down when you get home, go through your receipts. That's a great time. Or maybe once a week, Saturday morning over a cup of coffee, or, maybe at the end of the month. Now, again, it's really important if you're going to do this once a month that you take your receipts and segregate them in some way. And so maybe you have a accordion file folder or some envelopes, and gas goes into one and groceries go into the other, and Tim Hortons goes into that one and the kids go into that one. Not the kids, the expenses for the kids, because they won't fit in the envelope. Okay, it's late in the week and I'm getting a little silly. So those are the other ways that you can do that. So regardless, set aside some time. But again, did I mention I'm a lazy budgeter? And I don't always do this every week. Sometimes I religiously do it every few days. Sometimes it's once a week. Sometimes those receipts end up in my purse for a couple of weeks before I get to them. But one of the things that I find works for me is if I'm waiting somewhere, I'm waiting for an appointment, doctor's office, dentist office, waiting for the kids while they're at an activity, because I have all of the receipts in my purse. Doesn't work as well for you men, I know. And I have access to my software on my phone. At any point in time I can go in, make sure my receipts have cleared for my debit, throw them out, and then I take my cash receipts and I post those. And so really, whatever time works for you, it doesn't matter. And if you store them for an entire year and do it at the end of the year, that's okay too. It does get a lot more challenging because your memory has to last throughout the year so that you know what all of these expenses were. And believe me, I've let it go for months, and that has been a challenge. So, so that's the why, the how, the where, and the when. And so I just want to add a couple more tips that you can use to really make this effective for you. So just expanding on everything I've said. So there's a few ways that you can segregate out your spending. So you could have a separate account. Well, first of all, you could have one of the ways you can do it, which is not the most effective, one account for everything. You have one account, pays go in, automatic payments come out, you spend out of that account, your spouse spends out of that account. You have to be really organized for that to work. And I'm a highly organized person, but I find that still doesn't work as well for me, because if I get busy, I lose track. And so simply having two accounts. This one is your pay goes in, your automatic payments come out, you pay your bill payments out of that, and then you transfer an amount to the second account. That becomes your spending account. I use a no-fee bank, so there's no fees. I can use debit anytime I want. I can buy coffee for $1.25. There's no fee. It doesn't matter. That's one way that you can do that. Now, I also find that, so that's if you're mostly a debit spender. I also find that for cash, it helps to segregate it. So you could simply say, I have $500 per pay to spend on grocery, gas, miscellaneous. Take the full 500 out, stick it in your wallet, and just spend and get receipts. You could do that. And if that works for you, absolutely do that. But I can guarantee you pretty much that if you're doing that, there's money being wasted and you're not watching it as closely as you can. So one of the things you can do is get some envelopes. Go to the bank, deposit a check, get some envelopes, or they come in the mail, you throw them out. Don't keep them, use them, or buy box envelopes at the dollar store. They're pretty cheap. And so you take your money and you put some in the envelope. So this is my gas envelope, and I have my gas money in there, and I have a grocery envelope, and it's just a way to segregate it. Now you could just have different sections of your purse or your wallet, whatever works. But what it does is it just keeps in your mind how you're doing, staying in line with what you want to spend. I want to mention that this has absolutely nothing to do with income. So it's not about depriving yourself or cutting, keeping things so tight that there's not enough. I mean, sometimes that's a necessity and you have to, but whether you make $1,000 a month or $10,000 a month, knowing where your money goes is really important, because you want to make sure you're getting the maximum value and benefit that you can. So, so tracking allows you to see what you're spending, and when you spend money and you get a receipt for gas, for example, you just pop it in your gas envelope. And so you can check and see how you're doing. So I've written down that I had $100 in this envelope for gas this week, and I can check in and see how I'm doing. Now, in a perfect world, you will never take money out of this except for gas. But did I mention we don't live in a perfect world? Sometimes things come up, they throw things off track, or you need to transfer money from one envelope to the other, one account to the other, however you're doing it. Again, this will give you a heightened level of awareness when you're doing that. And so this week I needed to give the kids some lunch money, and this was my only envelope of cash I had on me, and so I gave them each $5 this morning, and I wrote kids lunch $10. So when I tally this up at the end of the month, I'm going to know I'm going to be $10 short because I gave it to the kids. If I notice myself doing that all the time, I need to adjust how I'm allocating my money. So money in envelopes, really great way to segregate your spending, or a separate bank account. The other thing you can do, and this is a relatively new venture for me, is you can use gift cards. So instead of putting money in envelopes, you can put them in gift cards. Now, I used to recommend this as a way to keep yourself from spending, for example, gas money on groceries. Because if you put it in an envelope, it's pretty easy to move it between the two. But if you have a gas card, it's a little more challenging. One of the problems I found with that is that it used to be you only got gas at a gas station and you only got groceries at a grocery store, and that's simply not the case anymore. You can get so much at so many places. So it does still work, just sometimes not as well. So recently I decided to try gift cards, and these came by courier for me this morning. Now you might be asking, why in heaven's name did you have these come to you by courier when you can pop out to the store and grab some? Well, one of my other strategies is to see how many free points, cash back I can earn in a year with minimal effort. And so these are cashback gift cards, which means when I purchase them, I get a % cash back. So I recently signed up. These are through Linus, and Lyoness, I think I'm saying that right. And so I recently signed up with them, and I ordered them to come with my pay, so they take the money out of my bank account. These show up a day or two later, and they just help me segregate my spending. So I have, for example, one here for PC where I get my groceries, and I generally shop at PC because I get the PC points, and I've redeemed hundreds of dollars in groceries since I've had it, so it's working really well. And so that's one that I use. And then I get my gas at Canadian Tire Gas Bar because I like the Canadian Tire money building up, and I actually use that at Christmas time. So that's a whole nother blog, and actually I have a Facebook page called I'm Dreaming of a Debt-Free and/or Free Christmas, and I talk about that. So those are my gas cards. Now, the one I had a challenge with is the liquor store cards. So part of my entertainment recreation spending plan is what we buy at the liquor store. So I do like my red wine, and but they didn't have liquor store gift cards. But my very good friend and trusted advisor who helped set me up with this told me that I could get a shopper's card, go there and get the liquor store cards, and that's what I've done. So I get cash back for going to the store and getting my liquor store cards and going to the liquor store. Now that one does require teeny weeny little bit extra effort, but I find Shoppers has some really cool prices on grocery items, and so I try to pop in once in a while, so I just use it as an excuse to do that. And anything that's really, really cheap, I stock up on a few things. And then I get points, I get cash back for simply going to Canadian Tire and getting gas, which is what I always do, and I get cash back for going to Superstore, which is what I usually do. So that's another way that you can segregate your money for to make sure that you're spending it where you want to be. So just a quick little recap on that. Excuse me, you can have a separate account, you can have envelopes that you put money in, or you can use gift cards. These are great for kids as well, keeps them focused on where they're spending their money. Okay, so I think that concludes my tracking spending for success. I hope that you have picked up some tips and some advice that you can use to help you have happier, healthier finances. And if there's something you're doing and you'd like to share, or if you have a question, please put it in the comment section below, and I'll be happy to respond. And I invite you to visit my blog site, which is drdebt.ca, and I've posted the address below as well. So if you'd like some more tips and advice, please feel free to visit it. And if you'd like to sign up for the newsletter, I'm happy to send you some tips and advice to your inbox. So thanks for hanging out with me. This was fun. And again, I'm Marianne, Dr. Debt, wishing you happy, healthy finances. Bye-bye.